got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome into the new channel, DDFFB, DD Fantasy Football. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, like the videos, comment on the videos. We'll try to get back to you in the comments. This is going to be a show that we do leading all the way up to the NFL draft and a little bit after the NFL draft as well. The DD Fantasy Mock Draft Show. We're going to go through different dynasty formats, talk through draft strategies, and we're going to start today with a pretty vanilla league. A lot of people out there, tight end premium, 1.75, start 11, 12 teams, super flex. So for everyone out there, this is the roster construction series format, but it's pretty basic in terms of some of the formats that we're going to cover. I'm here with Shane, here with Ray. We're going to go through a 2-round mock draft, the 2025 rookie class, right on the eve of the end of the fantasy football season. It's time to get into some rookies, guys. So we're going to start with this. This is a pretty basic format. We have just the 1.75 tight end premium, but it's a start one. So Shane, I'll start with you. How are you viewing the class right now in terms of like this type of format? It's pretty vanilla. There's no crazy scoring, no crazy quarterback scoring, no point per carry. How do you view the picks right now in terms of the first 2 rounds? Just kind of your overarching strategy if you're looking at trying to decide how to make picks today.
So I think I like this class a lot. I think legitimately out of the, I've got 26 or 27 players listed on my board right now for this draft. One of them is more of a novelty gag gift, but there's 26 legit players that I'd be okay with in the first 2 rounds that I'd be happy to have on my roster, I should say. Like the first 20, I really like. And then, you know, it gets a little sketch towards the end of the second, but it seems like a good class to me. Now, obviously, some things are going to change. If these dudes go out in the combine, they're not great, landing spots, etc. But right now, I really like this class. So I'm feeling good about, I'll say, obviously, first-round picks, but I am feeling good about leagues where I have multiple second-round picks.
Ray, we're early on in the class. We don't even have a full list of who's going to be in the draft and who's not. Haven't seen really any details on, you know, kind of some of the players in terms of we have mock drafts that have been put out since the beginning of the season, but we know how much those have changed since August compared to today over the next couple months as well. Given that there's not an obvious like lean or strategy in this format, how are you viewing the class organically from, you know, a likability standpoint in terms of how you would attack a draft where you can't just say, oh, it's all about the running backs and the point per carry, or it's all about the tight ends and the tight end premium. This is pretty neutral. So how are you viewing that compared to like the overall landscape of what we just saw in the 2024 season?
Yeah, I think Shane hit the nail on the head. The more that we progress through this process, the more I think that we all are going to like this class. It's easy to talk about the things that the class lacks, but when you really think about what it lacks, we don't really have a lack of that in the NFL, and that's the quarterback position. You kind of know who the elite guys are, who the mid-range guys are, and there's a lot of obtainable quarterbacks right now in Dynasty to where if you didn't like any of these quarterbacks, you can go buy your Geno Smith. You can go buy your Baker Mayfield to get you by another year. The areas of this class in which it is strong, it's an area in which the NFL is starting to lack at, the running back position. The class has been held up, you know, 2016, 17, 18, those guys. And the Chubbs and the Camaras and the not Barkleys, but the McCaffreys, they're getting older. So you're getting an influx at a position of need in the NFL. In the areas that it lacks, the quarterback position and wide receivers, hell, we got way too many damn wide receivers. We don't need 20 more coming in this year. So I actually think once people get over the sticker shock value of, oh, there's no elite quarterback, and you're like, yeah, but we got Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and probably Caleb Williams last year, like this class is going to look really damn good as we get through the process.
Yeah, I think if you're drafting this early on, and we're going to go and start the draft here and go 2 rounds, I'm going to be really hyper-focused on studying how people view the class as a whole in terms of the likability and just how these picks are going to be viewed and how some of the players are going to be viewed as we start progressing through. And actually, a lot of my picks are going to be some of my early bets on what I think is going to happen with some of those names. So with this, we're going to draft like we are doing this after the NFL draft. So this is going to be a draft where we're trying to forecast how these players are going to be sitting after we see them drafted. We obviously aren't going to know landing spots, but I think it's fair to probably use some draft capital projections in terms of how we're selecting players in this mock draft. So Shane, you are up 101. We're going to go snake format. So we're going to go in the order you see them on the screen: Shane, Scott, Ray, and then back the other way. So Ray will get 2 in a row and Shane will get 2 in a row, and I will be picking in the middle each time. So Shane, 101. It's a 12-team super flex PPR, no other fancy scoring, 1.75 tight end premium lineup league. So what are you doing, Shane, with the 101?
I think I'm going to shock the world and go with Ashton Jeanty. It's a shocker. I know. I'm bold. Real quick, I did update it on the sheet, even if it isn't coming up. But Ashton Jeanty, I don't know. There's nothing to say, really, right? I know he had a rough game against Penn State, but you saw the traits. Yeah, I'm not a scout, right? Not put that out there. But you saw, like, if this dude's behind a line that can, I don't know, defend itself, he's going to be special. Like, he's going to be the best running back in this class. So I'm not even going to get cute.
All right, I am up at the 102. It's actually a tough pick here because, yes, it's super flex. And yes, there's probably some leagues where teams are going to need quarterbacks in these spots, but I have no context. I don't have a roster that I'm drafting for here. I'm trying to really project how the market is going to view the players that are going to be going in this spot. And I know I've talked about the wide receivers.
Can I make your decision more intriguing, Scott? I think it is a fair assumption to say that both Ward and Sanders, at least today, project as top 10 picks. I'm going to make you say they're on one of the Giants or the Tennessee Titans for those two guys, however you want to put them. Like, really, you both of those guys are top 10 picks. One of them, pick which one, is throwing to neighbors. The other one is in Tennessee with Brian Callahan.
Yeah, I do think it is very easy to say they're going to be in one of those spots. They're going to get the draft capital. There's probably not a debate about that. I think it probably comes down to last year we had quarterbacks that got the draft capital. And we also had a wide receiver that people were going, man, how do I pass up on Malik Neighbors over a quarterback with that? And the quarterbacks this year are not going to have the same buzz that they did last year. So I do think there's going to be debates on people that say, you know what, just to your same point earlier, I can get a quarterback. If I don't project this player to be a difference-making QB, I can go get quarterback 15. Now, there's a lot of options, I think, this year after last year's results, where, okay, I can go get T-Law, I can go get Dak, I can go get a guy like that I actually feel okay about over the quote-unquote longer term. I don't have to take the risk on the quarterback I draft here ends up being one of the ones that is immediately undesirable. I mean, you've gotten on me sometimes, Ray, but I don't have a lot of patience with rookie quarterbacks. And I could see a world where somebody like Cam Ward goes to a spot like the Titans, and he's not Jaden Daniels right away. And people go, man, this guy just ain't it. I'd much rather have the wide receiver one that I think isn't going to be ridiculed as much. So for that, I'm going to take Tet McMillan over the quarterbacks. If I had to pick today, I think it feels safer to do that. Now, there's going to be leagues where it's just, you got to take the quarterback because I don't have one. But I'm leaning into the fact that unless I really truly can say that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward are top 10 producers pretty quickly, I don't have to take the volatile risk at quarterback. So I'm going to go with the receiver here. I'm going to leave you the QBs here, Ray, at the 103 and 104.
Yeah. This whole thing, this whole notion around likability, this is why I created the term ADV, artificial dynasty value. It's all about what people are going to think about these players. And both of those quarterbacks, while probably going to be top 10 picks, I think NFL fan bases are going to like them a lot more than the fantasy community. And I'm going to pass them. I'm going to bypass both of those guys right now. I've been on record of saying that if I had the rights to either of those two quarterbacks, I would take Baker Mayfield over both of them. And I still feel that way, although I like both of the quarterbacks. If they end up producing, then there'll be nice viable options down the line that I can draft in fantasy football land 2026 or trade for in this season. Right here, I'm just going to go with the tried and true running back. The class is deep. It's stacked. Give me Omarion Hampton at the 103 out of North Carolina, 6'1", 220. Receiving production, rushing production, young, declaring early, all that great stuff we like. He's an easy guy to project as being a top 50 pick. And regardless if he comes in and starts right away, I think your point on patience with these quarterbacks, if you're not going to have the dynasty discipline to sit through 4 weeks of Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, don't even fucking waste the pick. Don't draft them. If you know that you're not going to have the patience to sit through 2 preseason games where Shedeur looks bad, why even waste the pick? Don't even do it. Just draft somebody else if you know that's going to be your ass this year. So give me Omarion Hampton right here.
Interesting. So 104, are you also passing on a quarterback here? Or are you going to push it one more? You pass it on one at 104. You get another one.
Give me RB3. Give me Caleb Johnson. Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson. I'll let my league mates make the choice. Give me the 2 running backs that I project to be top 50 picks. I regardless of how they turn out, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I feel like I can find at least the type of production they're going to give me as rookies in the NFL now for a hell of a lot cheaper than 102, 103, 104, 105.
So, right. Let me ask you this. So is part of this because you don't feel like their ceiling is at the level of, say, where Jaden Daniels was, where we thought Caleb Williams was coming into last year?
And yes, but I want to be very clear by ceiling. I don't think the way in which they're going to score fantasy points, the pathway is not very clear for me because they don't run. So you're talking about a pocket passer, and if you're going to stand there and deal, you got to be 3,800 yards, 35 plus touchdowns, and I'm not putting that on either of those guys as rookies.
Wow, Shane, are you shocked that the first quarterback's still here at the 105? I mean, I am. I think this is obviously a mock where Ray had back-to-back picks. You know, the 103 and the 104 is probably not going to be in the same hands of a manager that passes on 2 quarterbacks here, but you think this is rare, or you think this could be the thinking of some more people with passing on the QBs when knowing what we just said? Like, if they don't have a lot of ceiling, they feel quarterbacks more replaceable than ever.
I think we feel like that right now. I don't know if the community feels like that. And the community, and I mean, it hasn't been wrong over the last few years. We beat into your head. You want a quarterback, right? You want a quarterback at super flex. You got to shove a quarterback into that super flex spot, even though there's a lot of times you'd been better served just putting a wide receiver in that second quarterback spot, that super flex / flex spot. So I think the community will still value the quarterbacks more. I don't know that I'm shocked. First of all, Caleb Johnson's on the board at 104. I know Ray's taking him in every draft, even if he needs a quarterback. But like Ray said, you can get quarterbacks in leagues. Like if I don't want to pay this, I don't want to take the risk that Sanders or Ward aren't going to hit. Let me take the running back who feels a lot safer, right? It translates. It's easier to see how it translates to the pros. So I'm not shocked. Not really. Will it happen in most of our leagues? I don't think so.
Do you think you could trade the rights to 103, 104 for Caleb Williams or Bo Nix?
Definitely Caleb Williams. Definitely Caleb Williams.
I'll take Caleb and Bo Nix over Shedeur and Ward. This idea and notion that you need a quarterback, so these aren't, I don't care how, they're not the 2 prototype or archetype of quarterbacks that score you fantasy points worthy of taking here. They're not. And I like both of them. But when you look at them bar for bar on paper, like that is not the profile to go out there and score you fantasy points when you're talking about running backs and receivers that are projected to come in and play right. I just don't. This is the year I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing that game with these type of quarterbacks. Just me personally, not this year. If I need a quarterback, I'll go buy Baker Mayfield.
So I think one interesting thing that you said, and I love that you posed that question about what could I trade that pick for? Because I think a lot of people in these super flex drafts, Ray, they get caught up in they equate the quarterback with the pick that they have, meaning like the team that would trade for the 103 is probably trading for the 103 because they probably want to get a specific quarterback in the class, right? So I don't see a lot of trades where somebody goes, I would trade you Caleb Williams for a high pick to not draft a quarterback, unless it's one of those where, okay, Caleb is my QB3 and I have also, Jared Goff hanging out on my bench. Like, clearly it's a deal where there's excess and they really think one of the non-quarterback players they can get can be elite. It feels like a lot of people, if you just took, and I know Shane starts to track his picks in terms of where he's picking with all of his drafts, I bet you could send a bunch of 103s, 104s, 105s even out for Bo Nix or Caleb, and you'd get a lot of, well, that's a fair price, but I now have a whole quarterback if I trade one of those guys to you, and I don't really want to draft Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders over them because I like Caleb better than those two. So I can't trade him, yet they may also agree, yeah, I'd almost rather have a top 3 pick than Bo Nix. But they won't trade you Bo Nix because then they need a quarterback and they don't want to draft one of these quarterbacks. So it's like a circular orbit where it's hard for those deals to actually get done.
Do they really need a quarterback though? Like, I know that's the thought process is that I have to have a quarterback to stick in that QB2, that super flex spot. Let me not say second QB because that's a different thing, 2 QB, but super flex. You don't have to ram a quarterback in there. We really don't. Like, if it's dry, don't enter. Just hold off until it's, there's some easy entry. You don't need to slam it in there. No reason to put the quarterback in there.
Hawk two, baby. You got a hawk two, Shane.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders. He's fallen far enough. Yeah, he's the QB1 for me. I think he has is it fair to say, I think he's a safer bet than Cam Ward? I think he's going to be polarizing.
I'm about to put, are you not concerned? Because I agree with you. He's my QB1, but are you not concerned the moment he goes out there and does anything bad, throws a pick, gets sacked, we knew it, all hype. Like, I don't know how much of the Shedeur hype or Shedeur hate is real or just people just latching on and they really like the kid. He feels like the riskiest of them all he feels like it's him, even though he's like the most pro ready.
I think the asset Shedeur Sanders is very risky. Can you imagine if he was the one that went to this year's Bears situation and it would just be, he is at fault for everything. And it's not just that the locker room's toxic and that's also his fault too. Like, it could be everything where he will not be given the benefit of the doubt that other QBs that maybe failed or had a little bit of a rough start. He may not be given that because half the people will not like him and be rooting against him going in.
So what's your plan then? You make this pick here at 105. What is your plan? What is the outcome that you're hoping to have by taking him here?
I think the outcome for him is he's very pro ready. And I think he's also going to be very subject to where he lands and what coach he's with. I mean, there's also a world where he comes out and he's Bo Nix, but maybe even better. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that it's all negative, but I think you bring up an interesting point that I know there's a lot of people in the fantasy space that haven't been vocal about it yet. But as soon as the guy starts to show any sort of cracks or failure, I knew all along he was toxic. I would have never drafted him. I avoided him in every one of my rookie drafts. You should have just taken whatever running backs are going to go next. They were quote unquote safer. So I can see it. That's why he's at 105. If he was a different name in a different class, he would have already been gone. So Shane,
I'll say this. If you're making this pick here, right? 10, wherever, what are we up to? 106?
You're at 106 and 107.
107. You can live with getting the quarterback wrong. I think here a lot more comfortable than you can at 101, 102, 103. And if you're drafting the quarterback here, I'm assuming you're drafting this as not so much as an asset right now. More of I can sit on him for a year. If everybody hates him, if he has a bad 8 weeks, I don't really care because he's just sitting on my bench. I feel like I'm trying to justify why I'm going quarterback too. So we'll just get Cam Ward out of here. Same thing. Look, I don't know when he's going to start. Dude's got a ton of college experience, right? Ton of starts under his belt. We like that now. It's funny. It was in vogue for a few years that we wanted quarterbacks that came out early. Now we want them to stay in college as long as possible. Like if they could come out when they're 30, we would be truly, truly happy. So I'll just take him here. Ooh.
I think we're going to this is where I think there's a clear cutoff for me at running back. There's a top tier of 3 guys. It's Hampton, it's Johnson, it's Jeanty, at least today. There's a clear one at receiver. If we knew the other guy was going to play full-time receiver, I think you would pencil Travis Hunter in there as well. In this class, with the depth of the running back, I honestly, at RB4, I could put 10 different names here. It's too early for tight end. And the receivers, I don't feel great. I feel fine. I think there's a safe receiver. I'm swinging for the goddamn fences. Like right now, this is where I would take the quarterback in super flex. I don't think he's a great passer, but he's a hell of a lot better than Anthony Richardson was coming out of college. He's got double, triple the starts that A-Rich had, and he's athletic. And athletic guys like him get drafted in the 2nd round, and athletic guys like him get an opportunity. And more importantly, athletic guys like him get people's sweatpants moving. That thing gets hard. As soon as they get in the game and run around a little bit, people like that type of player. So right here at the 107 in this format, I will select Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama.
Well, Ray, you sniped Shane on his pick that should have been Shane's.
He traded up.
Ray traded up. Went Jalen Milroe. That was Shane's pick. I was like, pick? No. I was waiting and going like, okay, Ray might make a point here that this is that point in the draft where it can be the wild, wild west. You know what I mean? If
I like it.
Get out of this spot, but
I like it.
Shane,
I like
are you on board with that pick?
I am willing to trade the pick to Ray. Knowing, we talked, he let me know he wanted to go Milroe. I don't need a quarterback. I maybe I'm the type of owner that likes pocket passers. So I'm like, I don't know about this guy. I'm old school. I want a pocket passer. This imaginary Shane. So I'm fine with trading that to Ray, and I like the Milroe pick.
So you got double up now. So you double up now to get back on. Would you have taken Milroe there, Shane?
Oh no, I wouldn't have.
All right,
but I get the thought process behind it, right? So at this point, like you said, it is very, very wild, wild west. And you were talking about how it's too early for the tight end. I don't care. I'm still drafting. Oh wait, is it my spot? Are you going to draft Scott?
No, it's my pick.
Okay, sorry.
But I want to have a more of an organic discussion about this pick because I think once Milroe's off the board, there's a couple other quarterbacks that I think you can justify drafting. But now we're getting into, I think, the point of the draft where, yes, I can cite draft capital, but I'm truly looking with these picks is in this class, what is the position of scarcity? What is the position that the market can maybe bail me out a little bit on if I don't have to bet on a absolute smash outcome right away, right? So like I'm not betting that any player I draft here is just dominant from day one. So what is the player that I think could have a narrative? This is where I'm already starting narratives. The damn 108. I'm trying to start on narratives that I think could exist for players if I have to make the pick today. So I'm just going to go with the player I still will take as the wide receiver 2, just because I think that is the position of scarcity in this class rather than the running backs. There's so many running backs that I think maybe there's 2 or 3 more that I really think people will love, but there are a ton more after that where I'm like, they're going to get opportunity. They're going to be late day 2, early day 3 picks. They're going to be on a 53. I can't tell the difference. So I'm going to go at the 108, and then Shane gets, geez, what do you get in a row? Do you get 3 in a row, Shane, at that point? Or that's 3 out of the next 4? You get 3 out of the next 4, actually. But I'm going to go.
I get to play around a little bit.
Emeka Egbuka at the 108. Ohio State receiver. That's all I need to say. If you're just talking about a narrative that I can go with. Ohio State receiver at the 108. So, Shane, you get 2 picks. Then I go, and then you get Ray's first pick. So you get 3 out of 4.
Good Lord. Hey, hold on. Timeout. I didn't mean to trade all my draft capital.
That's unfortunate.
You did it.
Once you make the pick, it's in.
Dude, I feel
so we're not saying now. You didn't do a 2-for-1, Ray, right? This was you traded something that's not going to be part of this mock, right? Want to say that? Okay. Shane, you get 1 pick, and then Ray gets your other pick. So we'll do it that way.
Oh, okay. So I got a couple guys on my board, but I think all the talking you just did talked me into this, dude. I've talked about this for years, and this is going to be the year that I finally do it. I'm going to draft players that I don't particularly like because my opinion on a player, as far as the talent, matters absolutely not even one iota of a fuck. Not one, not even an iota of it, not even a little bit. So that said, this dude's mocked in the first round, just about every mock draft I've looked at so far, just about. So I'm just going to take him. It's Luther Burden. I'm going to take him. I don't particularly think he'll ever be a 1. I don't know that it matters, though, because it doesn't matter what I think. The community likes him. The NFL seems to like him. I'm going to draft him. That's my only reasoning. It does. My feelings don't matter. They really don't.
I mean, Ray can speak on it a little bit. He's going to get capital. There's a lot of people out there that are saying, well, why not him as wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1? So I can't argue with the justification of the pick. Ray, you traded back, or, you traded up, and this is the pick that you kind of swapped. So you get to make this pick for Shane. I believe that's how we're doing it, right? Or no?
No, Shane's got another pick. This is Shane's pick.
Yeah, Shane gets this pick. Yes. Shane gets this pick. Go ahead.
So I could go all ignorant and go against my own better judgment here, or I could just play it safe. Yeah, let's be ignorant right here. I've got some picks to play around with, right? And I just want to make sure this dude's going to make it back to my team. I think he's going to get higher capital than people think he is right now. He's a little bit athletic, and his name's fun, which is an underrated aspect in fantasy. You could say it's not, but like Puka, love Puka. First reason I love Puka because his name was Puka. Jackson Dart, probably earliest you'll ever see him drafted in a mock. And I have to admit, this could turn into a Matt Corral situation where this dude ends up being a 5th round draft pick, and I'm punching myself in the head in 4 months. But as of right now, I think he's going to show out at the Senior Bowl, and I think he's going to help his draft stock. And I'm going to go ahead and take Jackson Dart.
Ooh. Right. What do you think about Jackson Dart there? Because I can't argue with it if there's no premiums that are going to clearly just push players above for a positional reason. Quarterbacks that could get opportunity is going to be a window. What do you think about that? Given that Milroe already went, I mean, is this like the end of quarterbacks you're willing to even consider at this point?
Here's the sad reality of 25. That's it. Once he goes off the board,
Oof.
If you want to sell me on Dylan Gabriel, you could have it. If you want to try to convince me that Will Howard or, that this is Carson Beck, this is it. The more I look at this, the more, okay, we know it's a strong running back class, but are you getting cute trying to punt the Quinshon Judkins down the board because it's so deep? And then, as I'm just looking at this, in no world should 2nd round or potentially 3rd round Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart be in the goddamn 1st round. But it's super flex. Are we catering too much in punt?
No,
the more
right.
I look at this, I'm like, sure, but
right.
Would I rather have Quinshon Judkins the asset or Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart? And the more I think about this, I wouldn't lie to y'all, man. If we're just talking straight PPR, I might prefer Tyler Warren to both of those quarterbacks the more I think about this. This is a great exercise because although I'm into I've not done this a lot. I haven't mocked and trying to get your mind back into how people still value the quarterback in Superflex versus tight end versus, are people going to be burned by Will Levis and Anthony Richardson and not want any part of Jackson Dart and Milroe? I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'll put this out there. Look, so I know Scott said we're assuming we're drafting based off of where we think they're going to land. If these two dudes are 2nd and 3rd round picks, I'm out. I'm not drafting them this time. I'm flat out out.
Well,
I'll get them later. I'm fine in the end of the 2nd round, mid-2nd round. In the 1st, not so much.
I think that's important to illustrate. That's the bet you're making. Will Levis wasn't a 1st round pick, but as soon as he got drafted in the 2nd and it was clear he was going to start, he was at the 109 to 201. This is right where he went. So I think it's important to identify that Jackson Dart has to continue to impress. And you have to be able to go into NFL draft season going, he may not be a 1st rounder, probably unlikely he has a shot to go in the 1st, but he's got to go in the 2nd. He's got to go and pick 50 to a team that needs a bridge starter. And you go, I can see a world where he's starting by week 5, week 8. It can't be, he can't become Spencer Rattler, where he's a day 3 pick and you're just praying he gets a chance. I mean, no one would have thought Spencer Rattler was going to get the starts that he got this year. It can happen. But if that's where he's drafted, you wasted the first round pick on a guy that probably is going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick in the actual rookie drafts. So,
yeah. So if these dudes don't make it up to 32, 31, they won't make it there because they don't need quarterbacks. But seriously, if they don't make it up to the first round, I'm out.
I don't think you got it. Then you wasted your picks, Shane, if you took Jackson Dart, because I don't think he's got a shot in hell to go in the first round.
Well, then it's too late. I already made the pick.
No. I think I don't think that means he's a bad pick, right? If he goes in the early second, mid second, why do you care about his draft cap?
Early. It's going to have to be super early in the second.
Does it have to be super early, or can it be a spot where they don't have a starter? Their starter is Drew Lock.
So
and
New Orleans.
Okay. I'm saying,
Seattle.
I think the point is he has to go somewhere where there's opportunity.
I got you.
Period.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what round he goes. If he goes somewhere where there's opportunity and it's the second, I'd rather have that than a guy go in the late first on a team that the quarterback is Jordan Love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, my Milroe assumption was top of the second round, just like Will Levis, to a shit team to the Raiders. They took Mason Graham in the first. Milroe was the 6th pick off of the board in round 2. You know he's going to play. You know there's going to be opportunity. Like, that's my assumption in it. If, like Shane says, if they go out there and they're Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder, 3rd round behind Michael Penix, then hell no, I'm out.
And there's 4 or 5 teams in this draft that are not going to pick in the top 2 or 3 that they may not want to trade up. You know, Cleveland could be one. They just take a shot on a QB. You know what I mean? Like that if Jackson Dart went to Cleveland in the second, Shane, you can't be like, he's never going to get a chance. You know what I mean?
No, he's going to get a chance probably within 8 weeks. So yeah, I'd love
you
it.
wouldn't view that as a bad draft capital pick.
No, but if he ends up in Philadelphia at pick 64, well, then it's a different story because the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
I was going to say, I noticed how Shane's given the Eagles that last pick because he's already projected that Super Bowl. Anyway, Quinshon Judkins, easy pick here at 111. I think he's probably the same as some other running backs, but man, like the name Quinshon Judkins, he's been on the radar since he was a freshman. The name is going to carry some weight. And I think this is in line with kind of some of these other running. I mean, I'm not saying he's the next like Breece Hall, but I think he could have that type of cachet where it's like, man, wherever he lands, if it's a good spot, he's easily a guy you got great value on. So Judkins, 111. We got 112. We got Shane with this pick at 112. What you doing?
So this pick, Tyler Warren, 1.75 tight end premium. It's funny, there's like 3 guys I was debating right here, right? But he was the one dude I'm like, I know I'm taking him here or the next pick. So let's just get him out of the way. I keep, every time I watch him, I just like him more. You know what I mean? Like, how can you not? Like, I know he's just a monster, right? And I know the NFL is different, but this dude is going to eat in the NFL. Like, he absolutely is. And like where we've been mocking him or where we think he might land, Denver, what do you call that other place? Los Angeles, the Chargers, those people. He's going to be putting up some numbers. He's not going to do Brock Bowers type numbers because, well, no one did that but Brock Bowers. But I think he's probably going to be a top 6 tight end right off the bat, production wise. And that'd probably be, I know I'm jumping my skis a little bit, probably tight end 4 in Dynasty if he does that. I'm doing a lot of assumptions on it, right? I already assumed what he's going to do in his first year and then what his value is going to be after that. So I'm getting over my skis. But yeah, I'll go Warren, man. I'll go Warren.
I think this is probably around where he'll go, if not higher, in a 1.75. But I think this is a great value, given that you could probably, if he's good, he's going to get the capital. If he's good, I mean, you can flex him in the same range as a lot of the receivers. So I think, shouldn't this be Ray's pick? Ray, it's been a while since you've picked. I think I think
picking ages, man. Fuck it. I traded up for Milroe and
Ray paid way more than he thought. He misclicked on Sleeper trading for that Milroe. He didn't realize he had to give up those extra picks. So Ray, you get the 201 and then we'll continue with the normal draft order. What are you doing here?
All right. At the 201, it is, there's no quarterbacks viable. So you just kind of bypass that. Running backs galore are available. So I'll take one that I think could get day 2 capital. He's performed well in the college football playoffs. He's a Devi name. People like him. So here we go. Let's put Travion Henderson out of Ohio State right here at the 102. I think he's going to be a excellent complementary back, a 1B. I think it's already been proven that he played much better when Judkins was on the field, keeps him healthy, he's explosive. You see the speed, big, fast, strong. Still don't know if he's declared fully, but for the assumption here, I think he goes in day 2. Travion Henderson, 201.
Oh, I love Travion Henderson. I can't expect to get him in the second in a format like this where, the tight ends are not going to be as desirable, I don't think. For me, 202, I hate just continuing with the same sort of logic behind why I've picked some other players in this draft, but I think I'm just going to roll with another running back. I think Nick Singleton has the steam of if he goes somewhere that people like. He's trying to think how I actually would classify this term, but I think he has the name cachet to where even if his draft capital is very similar to that of Devin Neal, I think people are going to go, oh, Nick Singleton, man. He's been a stud since day 1.
He's a great name, Scott. He's a great name on a big stage on a team that also produced Miles Sanders
and
Saquon Barkley. Yep. Journey Brown was supposed to be next. It's a Penn State running back, dude.
Yep.
And that's honestly at this point, if I'm drafting running backs that can separate themselves from the pack like this early on, that's almost all I really care about. There's literally 20 more running back names where I'm like, oh, I can see that guy getting a couple starts, or I can see that guy making a 53 and being relevant. But there's very few left where I go, if they hit, they become a real asset. So he's my 202. Shane, Ray gets these picks because he traded up. So Ray, you actually get 2 more here after I went Nick Singleton at 202. So you get 2 in a row. We're continuing the same order.
Yeah. All right. So for the sake of this, I will take the player that I believe has the highest boom swing in this entire rookie class. It is going to be a tired, exhausted narrative that Shane will most doubtedly curse out before the end of this process. What side of the ball is Travis Hunter going to play on? Is he going to be a receiver or a corner? Shane, can you just envision how many pods and analysts that have no goddamn clue are going to try to give you a snap share and what they project? And ultimately, we know nothing. But here's what I do know. If week 1 of the 2025 NFL season, that New England Patriots game turns on and you see Drake May trot out there, and all of a sudden you see Travis Hunter trot out there with him, the people's pants are messed up. They've got to change underwear now. Last guy, it just got tight. Now you got to change draws because people are going to say he's playing receiver. Like, this guy is going to play with Drake May. So right here, the running back class is deep. There's 15 more that I like. Receivers, I could live or die with anybody that's left. I'm swinging for the fences here. Travis Hunter, sign me up.
I don't think you'll see him go this far down. If there's any inkling that he's going to be a receiver that gets a decent snap share, I think there's going to be
you're going to get that inkling. Though. I don't think if I'm Hunter, I don't give anybody anything.
I agree with that.
I'm just going to play football. You're going to have to make a conviction bet. You're going to have to make a bet.
Because that's what's going to get him drafted that could get him drafted first overall is, well, I could play both sides. Now, obviously for fantasy, we're like, cool, that just dropped you to the second round. But the NFL is going to love it for them. So he's going to go in first 5 picks or so. So it is going to be so much talk about, last week he played 30% of the snap share. So he's not a full-time wide receiver. And then the next week he's going to play 70. So he's definitely a full-time wide receiver. And then he just got burned by, I don't know, pick someone. So who knows if he's even a good cornerback. There's more money on the wide receiver side. So it is going to be a lot of talk when none of us are going to know absolutely anything at all.
I know, Ray, we've talked about the fact that even on draft night, he's going to get the capital, but he's probably going to be announced as athlete Like they're not even going to tip it in terms of, you know, how the team has to name a position and select him there. I'll be curious if there's any sort of special treatment where he's not announced as a specific position or he's multiple positions or something like that. But to the point, I think a lot of people will to make a bet on him earlier than this, right? Like they're going to probably go, I'll just take him. You're going to see analysts saying if he's there at the 112, I'm just taking him every time. Fair or not. So, Ray, you get another pick, 204.
204 format 1.75 tight end premium, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll just do it. Tight end 2, tight end 1 for a lot of people. Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Feels like for the format, maybe a little high, but I've got conviction that he's a plug and play type tight end. Day one capital. You're gonna have to just find the name, Shane, for that one. Get him in there. But I think Loveland is right in that same mold as Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin, Mason Taylor. They're probably all going to get very similar draft capital. At least Colston, Loveland, Fannin, and Tyler Warren, I project them to be the first 3 tight ends off the board. It's a great name. People love him. The format, he could be very viable as a pass catching monster, especially when you look at some of the spots that he's been mocked to. Again, the RB class is so deep. I feel like I can just kind of get some elite. Would I rather tight end 2 or RB7? And the difference between the RB7 and the RB15 is 0. So I just take tight end 2.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at a list of probably, again, 15 to 20 running backs that I would still be willing to take at some point in the draft. Shane, are we making a mistake again in a 1.75 start 1? It's just enough premium where I think the league probably thinks it matters, but this is likely a first round tight end. Are we making a mistake passing on him because people are scared that tight ends don't produce right away? And, you know, last year's tight end class wasn't super great in terms of, now I think Loveland's better than all the tight ends last year, but last year did not produce. Besides Bowers, there was no other tight end that was not a consensus. He's going to be a stud that even was startable, really. So is this one where I think it's a mistake to let the tight end fall this far? Or is it a just, if he gets opportunity, I mean, it's a 1.75. Like you need a receiver to score 15 points per game, probably, until a tight end can't match that in this premium. Is this too late for Loveland compared to some of the risks we've already taken, or no?
Bro, people are so gun shy after the Kyle Pitts experience. And if you've played long enough, they're good now. But Evan Ingram, David Njoku, you drafted those dudes in the first round in fantasy drafts, rookie drafts, whenever they first started playing.
Noah Fant, still waiting.
Noah Fant. I was a Noah Fant fiend. Like, oh, that dude's so athletic. He's went to the right college. This dude's going to be a monster. It's a decade later. I'm still waiting. I think people are still burned by that. I don't know if it's wrong either, right? Because we keep drafting these tight ends really early in rookie drafts. And how many tight ends are actual difference makers? There's Trey McBride. There's Brock Bowers. Travis Kelce, who's 106. Who am I missing? You know, guys that can absolutely tip the scales.
I think the bigger question is, especially if you're weighing this against, for me at least, you're weighing this against the receivers that are here. And there's a lot of running backs, right? So unless you have a pick where it's like, this is just the clear value pick, I'm kind of looking at a tight end like this going, if they are good, it's a bonus if they become anything close to those elite tight ends. If they just become tight end 7, 8, 9, if I just get Jake Ferguson for a couple years compared to your favorite wide receiver 2 or 3, they're the same production. You know what I mean? And then it's just a bonus because it's the tight end positions. There's just not a scarcity with the receivers. And that's what makes me go, okay, there's 6 receivers that I think could be the next receiver off the board. But do I want to take them when we're talking about a player that's probably locked to go in the late first round? So that was kind of my debate with Loveland. I probably would have taken him a little bit earlier, to be honest, but I can't argue with any of the picks that went ahead of him. So,
I mean, so it's neither here nor there, but I'll just say that I had Warren going off the board much earlier in my own personal mock draft for all the reasons you just listed as far as difference making. But again,
no, I really have to look at some conviction on some of these receivers here to say this is what I really want to take, because I think there's a lot of receivers that could be the next receiver off the board, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to go with a running back because I think there's probably 2 or 3 more, but there's one more running back where if they land in the right spot and they get third round capital, I think people will still go, okay, that guy is better than everybody else. So I'm going to go Ollie Gordon with this pick. If he's a third round pick, I think people will remember that name. I mean, hell, I think before the season, Ray was going, man, Ollie Gordon could be RB1. So, I mean, I think people will remember that. And if he lands in a spot in the early third or something, people will go, that's a starter. He's going to supersede whoever's on the depth chart with him. I think all the other running backs are very much just subject to opportunity. I think he's got a little more juice. So I'll take him as the last running back in that tier. Let's see. We got Shane up for 2 picks here. I'm very curious what you're going to do.
I know it's the age of the running back, but I'm still a wide receiver slut. So I'm going to go ahead and take Trey Harris.
Why Trey Harris over the other receivers? What's the narrative or argument?
1, keeps getting mocked in the first round everywhere I see. 2, AJ Brown clone. You know, there's only one AJ Brown. There's only one AJ Brown, but he's like baby Brown. And that's all I need. You know what I mean? I have a type of wide receiver. He's 6'3", 210. He's not super fast enough, and he'll run through your face. So that's just the type of dude I like. So I like him. What could I say?
Okay. Jonathan Mingo clone?
Oh, no. Unacceptable. No. Anyway. Absolutely not. AJ Brown. Think positive. Also, it's 206. Yeah. So if I miss, you know, I'm not going to be happy, but I'm going to take my chances on him right here. Oh, I got to get him off my board. Damn. Yeah, you know what? Then I'm just going to take Harold Fannin Jr. Yeah, I thought about a wide receiver, but you two, everything you've said over the last couple picks, talking about the tight ends, talking about their draft capital. Thank you, Ray. You convinced me to get in and skip a wide receiver I was looking at. And I feel like the room's fading these wide receivers. So the wide receiver I'm thinking of, I'll probably get later. So I'm going to just go with Fannin Jr., who is not. I got to type him in. I'm sorry. Oh, no, there he is. Sorry.
Nope. We got him in there. Ray, I saw your face when he took Harold Fannin. Is that a snipe? Is that who you were looking for?
I truly think once we get to the combine and people see, oh shit, this dude's 6'3.5", 6'4", 250, and he drops a 4.4 40-yard dash, like people are going to be like, whoa, that's the type of difference-making playmaker. I don't care if he's a traditional inline tight end. And like he is the type of tight end that would go to a place like Kansas City and people would lose their damn mind. Like even in this format, he was the last of the like cult following tight ends that I would take from a likability standpoint. And I think there's one more running back that, whether you like him or not, I think he definitely deserves to be in this range.
So I'm curious real quick on Fannin versus Colston Loveland, because I think it's possible that Fannin is the more productive, even though I think the masses are going to like Loveland's profile a lot more. Is that one where you're willing to take the cheaper one? Because, I mean, we live in a world where people are not going to be willing to wait 2 years for a tight end to look like they've seized a role. You know what I mean? Is that one where you'd be willing to kind of bet that Fannin might have a role earlier, or does the small school concern you at all in terms of getting right to the NFL and producing? No?
Well, that doesn't concern me. What's more concerning are just the measurables. You know, he's listed at 6'4", 230, which means he's probably 6'3", who knows what, which I've got no problem with, but I need to see where he's going to land. Colston Loveland, they got him listed at 6'5", 245. So he's probably going to be 6'4", 2. I just have more confidence that from right out the gate, he's hand in the ground on the field either way, whereas Fannin is probably going to be a little more scheme dependent. And if he does hit Evan Ingram type outcome, which I think he can, he'll smash. But if you're drafting today, I need to see where he's at. Like I need to see where he lands.
Interesting. I think there's going to be very league specific values on these tight ends. Some leagues are going to go, I'm just not taking a tight end because there's too many sexy receiver and running backs. And then there's going to be other leagues where they get scooped up right in these ranges. All right. I'm up at 208, and I'm just going to take a shot on a receiver that I think I I'm assuming he's going to declare for sure. Maybe if you know, Ray, if he's officially in the class, let me know, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be. But I think he's got a name and he's going to come from a place where I think people will know him. So I'm going to take Isaiah Bond with this pick.
Oh,
don't like it?
Oh, man.
You don't like it? How many receivers would you have taken over Isaiah Bond? 4?
At least 3 or 4 more. I mean, this is just pure freaking hopium right here. He didn't do jack shit this year.
That's why I'm taking him, because if he declares, I think he's got a shot to get capital just as good or better than the guys that are there.
So here's the thing with that. I don't agree with that. The NFL Draft Advisory Committee is pretty sharp on that. Like, just because we think there's some good collegiate prospect, if he declares, he got good feedback, but I don't think that's going to be the case because he was some highly touted recruit. There's no way. He didn't play enough. I don't see there's any world. He hasn't even done anything in the college football playoffs. You don't even know he's on the field. I would have felt better about this pick if you drafted Matthew Golden. That would have made more sense than Isaiah Bond. This is pure Devi hopium with this pick.
Isn't it also, though, the fact we're drafting even before the declarations so that, like, you would never make this pick if he's not in the class, right?
But that's the thing in the extra, even if you are, like, it just doesn't, to me, the more productive receiver and the one that I guarantee the advisory committee is going to say that's the NFL guy, it's Matthew. It's the other guy that's there. It's not Isaiah Bond. It's Matthew Golden, the one that's smashing. So, but here's the thing, Scott, this is what's littered over all mocks. It's Isaiah Bond. It's Evan Stewart. It's these Devi names of the past, but the reality is he didn't do jack shit this year. Nothing.
Yeah, that's interesting drafting this early because I think it's very much like I remember early mocks with Anthony Richardson when he was going to be clearly in the class. And then for a while, he wasn't going to be in the class, so people didn't mock him at all. And then he declares and he's right back where he was. It kind of feels the same thing, even though we're further in the process. So, all right. 209. These are the last 2 picks for Ray, 29, 210, and then we'll close it out with myself and Shane. Ray, what are you doing with these 2 picks?
Yeah, this one, I'm going to take the other Texas receiver. Matthew Golden has been a massive riser for me this season. Despite everything that's happened with Quinn Ewers and what's he going to do, the one consistent for that Longhorns passing attack has been Matthew Golden, 6 foot, 195 pound player, transferred into Texas this year. And I mean, some of the catches that he was making against Arizona State, just incredible. So this is a receiver class that it's just not very good. It's a bunch of wide receiver 3s that we pray somehow could turn into a wide receiver, but I'd trade for other guys before taking Kyron Lacey and Ty Felton. I like the players, but this is just not a strength of this class. So after Matthew Golden's off the board, personally, I think RJ Harvey is a top 8 running back in this class. Woody Marks, DJ Giddens, Dylan Sampson, all in the same tier for me. But for the sake of this argument, the running back that's right outside of this tier that I think 95% of America knows about more because of one game, and they love him. He's going to have a cult following. My BFF from Arizona State, Cam Scattaboo here at pick 210. He's a versatile, physical running back, not the biggest guy. There's a lot of people debating what he will run. They're saying 4.6s to maybe 4.7s. But he's a physical running back. I think he plays a lot like Tyler Algier, Cody Carpentier, and Alex Dunlap from Roster Watch. They comped him to James Conner. I think that's lofty. But he put the team on his back versus Texas, and I do think that he's going to be in range. To be honest with you, if we're talking about Ollie Gordon in day 2, I think Scattaboo in the 3rd round is very realistic, or even the 4th round. So at this point, it's get your running back of flavor, and this is going to be a guy that people will pump up to the high heavens all offseason, regardless of where he lands. And don't let him land in a spot where there might be a window for opportunity. If I had to pick today, I'm taking Scattaboo over Monungai. I'm taking Scattaboo over RJ Harvey, just off of the sheer fact that I know I'll be able to move him to somebody. I mean, the people are saying, is he RB1 over Jeanty? Go look at not fantasy people, real fans. They're like, we want this guy in Frisco, draft him to Dallas in round 1. I mean, these are people who say this. They love this kid, man. So sign me up for the ADV.
I think it's hilarious that we can just go back and think of players over the last couple classes where it almost didn't matter about anything that happened to them. The name, it will never be forgotten by people, and then there's other names. As soon as there's anything negative, I knew that player was never going to make it or never cut it. I think that's a really interesting pick, Shane. What do you think about the Scatterboo pick, Shane? That's truly one of those where you're just drafting him. Because even if you can't sell it, I think a lot of people, Ray, will say, I'm never going to be able to sell him for more than what you just bought him with. But it's not even about selling him for a profit. It is about I know how Ray plays Dynasty. There's going to be a deal down the road where to get what he really wants, having him as the throw-in versus another guy is going to be what gets the deal done. Like, that's the thinking here. It isn't, oh man, I'm going to be able to sell him for a first, or I'm going to be able to sell him for 2 seconds. It's what he brings.
And it's what he brings sight unseen. Because once they play, right? Once they play and Katron Allen is good, people will be like, oh, well, give me Katron over this guy. But sight unseen, we've seen, look at what people were doing for Kamani Vidal, Dylan Lobby. Look at what people were doing for those guys.
Piso did for Carson Steele when he had a couple plays where he ran people over in the preseason.
I'm just saying, it's so easy to predict how fantasy gamers are going to react to certain players. It really is. And he's won one preseason game against fifth stringers. He goes out there and trucks somebody, give him the starting job. Screw Saquon, get that guy on the field.
Dude, we were going nuts for Will Shipley last year when he ended up in Philly. Like, oh, he's gonna have a role. He's gonna have a role. Yeah, people are gonna be all over Cam Scatterboo. They have something in common. I can't remember what, but there's a commonality between those two that the fantasy football community kind of digs.
Last pick for me. I'm trying to truly find the player. I'm just scrolling through a huge list to find the guy that I think is going to have the hopium attached to him. Man, I can't do it. I can't do it. No.
Do it. Show some conviction.
Do it, Scott.
You are Captain Conviction. You are the person that
I'm buying into the same hopium of Isaiah Bond. It's a name. It's a pick.
Do it.
It is 211. 211. Remember what most second round draft picks are. They do not turn into Terry McLaurin. They do not turn into, I don't know, pick some other second rounder this year. Lad McConkey.
Cheating,
that's not what they generally do.
If I make the pick, I'm going to pass because I'll tell you who I was going to pick after this. I'm going to go with Tez Johnson. I still think he's the receiver that I would draft in this spot if I truly had to pick the receiver that I wanted. I think you could make the same argument I made for Isaiah Bond with Evan Stewart. If he's in the class, people are not going to forget the name because he should have been here the entire time. So I think you could argue Evan Stewart. You know what? I'll take Evan Stewart over Tez Johnson for that reason. This is a hopium-based draft for me, and I'd rather have, if they're getting picked within 20, 30 picks of each other, which they probably will, give me the one that look at Troy Franklin last year. He went in the 4th. It didn't matter. There was a narrative, and people were still like, I'm going to draft him in the same range as guys that went in the early 2nd. So I'm going to lock in Evan Stewart. It's just pure hopium argument, even though I literally prefer Tez Johnson over Evan Stewart, but I'll take Stewart at the 211. Shane, close it out.
There's so many. There's still good choices on the board, man. There definitely are. I'm going to take Katron Allen. I actually like Katron Allen a lot, and I think I hate Penn State, but they might keep winning, and the more they keep winning and people see Allen, they're really going to really like this dude. And he's probably going to end up with higher draft capital than a lot of people expect him to. The dude's a monster. Like, he's just a beast. He's another one of those dudes that people tend to like. We keep talking about likability. It's fun to end it that way, right? We like bruising dudes that will run over a dude's face, but that's not all he is. So, yeah, I'm going to go K-Tron. There was a couple other players. I was thinking of taking a white wide receiver just because they have cachet in the community, but I'm going to pass over him maybe in the third round next time.
Who was the receiver? Restrepo?
Yeah.
I don't think he's white.
He's not? He looks like a white. Man. You sure?
Nah, I don't. I mean, he's maybe right, his mom is, but
then I'm glad I didn't make the pick because that would have been a wasted pick. So, yeah, I'm going to go with K-Tron.
All right, Ray, players that didn't get picked that you considered.
RJ Harvey, running back UCF, Woody Marks, running back USC, DJ Giddens, running back Kansas State, Dylan Sampson, running back Tennessee. There's kind of a theme here, like RBs. I think this is an incredible year for needing running back. And all those years that those fourth and third rounders kind of felt like just dirt and trash because you're trying to find the next Puka. Like, sure, wasting it on the 8th round receiver is probably a bad bet. I'm looking at names like Taj Brooks, Khalil Mullings out of Michigan, Donovan Edwards, Jaquindon Jackson. These are guys that are going to be day 3 running backs. Tootin from Virginia Tech, Manungai, Devin Neal, Trevor Etienne. Like, they're going to get drafted to spots where there's going to be opportunity. And you talk about any running back on a 53, like, this is the year where I think thirds and fourths are freaking gold mine. Because if you hit on one of these running backs for no cost, just not even hit by them finishing as the top 10 running back, but by hit that they get some opportunity where people are going to like them. And then you can take your Taj Brooks and go buy David Montgomery, take your Donovan Edwards and Jaquindon Jackson and go get an old James Conner that no one like. This is the year. Like, there's so much free money in this draft because it's a position that the NFL needs. And you really don't think about after Sanders and Ward, you really could say, I'm done with quarterback. Screw it. I don't care. I'm just drafting straight RBs. Like, I want as many running backs as possible from this class. Put it this way. If there was a world where I could sell you that 205 for the rights to Ollie Gordon and you kicked me back 3/3 and I took Katron Allen, Kyle Manungai, and Devin Neal, you can have Ollie Gordon. Give me the thirds. If my plot is to find the running back, I will take 3 darts at the apple than 1.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because I think a lot of people probably are wondering, okay, this second rounder has a lot of names that I recognize, but to your point, Ray, if you're going to have to pick one, I mean, there's literally still 20 running backs on the list that I have that I'm like, I could see them getting drafted in round 5 and they land in a spot where I'm like, man, that guy could get opportunity. So it's like, it might not even be a 3-for-1. Like, I bet you right now, if you really had the stones to say, I'm willing to trade the 205, where would you say the tier break was in this draft where you could live with missing on that pick? Was it probably that Colston Loveland pick where if you could that spot or lower, I mean, 205, 206 range?
Yep. I'm fine. Like, moving. I'm today. We'll get to the combine and but today I'm fine moving there.
You might be able to get even more than the 3/3. You might be able to get 2/3, 3/4. You know what I mean? Like, you might be able to get even more darts. And I know we always say that early because the list, not every one of these running backs is going to declare.
But here's the thing. You said majority of them have. Literally the only ones who have yet to declare are your boy Travion Henderson, Trevor Etienne. Like, that's it. Everybody else that I've named, Manungai, Gordon, Katron Allen hasn't declared, or Singleton, but majority of this list, they're in. Like, majority of the top running backs from Harvey to Scadaboot, and they're all in. They're in.
Yeah, and a lot of them have already committed to the All-Star game. So once they're there,
they're in. You know, like this, we're 25 deep at RB this year, and I bet you what they're thinking is it's a good time to be a running back in the NFL. Let me get there.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, a debate for another time, and I'm looking at some of these names going like, it's like a guy like Rocket Sanders. You know, he's probably got no choice but to declare, but probably just gets lost in the class. You know what I mean? And I mean,
I literally forgot that he was still a player.
He looked better this year than he did last year for sure. I mean, that's another one that will be available in round 6. You know what I mean? And people will know the name. So you could probably argue using one of those thirds on just
Yeah.
I mean, the name Rocket Sanders had the same power as Ollie Gordon. You know what I mean? At one point, he was the RB1 or RB2 in his class, and he just ended up taking a lot longer to get there. So good mock, guys. I think this one is definitely, there's still a lot of unknowns. I think a lot of the picks we made based on future narratives that we think are going to pop up. And I'm still not even decided. The reason I wanted to do this series and we wanted to all kind of start doing this regularly was to get a pulse on what this class is going to feel like. You know, we don't know for sure how good it's going to be, but to sum it up, Ray, I'll go to you, then I'll go to Shane. Just when I say 2025 class, like you already mentioned the running backs, is there anything else that sticks out to you? Just gut feel on how the masses are going to be talking about this class in April. Like if you ask somebody that's just jumping in and going, I'm just starting to study the class, like what is going to be there? Oh, this is what it is. You know what I mean? The experts that come in late, what are they saying then?
Yeah, I think for this class, there's going to be an exhausting conversation around probably the position that is going to have the least fantasy impact from this entire class. And don't let that distract you from the fact that, I mean, there are 20 running backs that are probably going to make a 53. There are 8 tight ends that are probably going to get relevant capital, and you still have a couple of exciting receivers. Like once we get to it and people start to see that we don't have a running back in this class outside of Jeanty, sub 5'9", you know, they're all 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", 6'1" to 6'2", 220. Like there are no 195ers in this class. There are no little dudes. And the bigger point that I want people to take away from is we don't need 10 more quarterbacks. There ain't enough spots. Like, literally, we don't need 10 quarterbacks this year. We don't. What we need are some damn running backs and some tight ends, because Kelsey and Kittle and you saw Andrews trying to house that 60-yarder week 17. He laughed because he knows he's slow as shit. We need some new players coming in at positions that we've kind of discarded, but I think that's going to make for an intriguing class. I think that's going to make for an exciting class because we've kind of kicked tight end and running back to the curb, and that's what we're about to get a lot of. Don't worry about Jackson Dart versus Milrow. That'll be a lot of talk when ultimately you'll be like, dude, give me Geno Smith, please, over dealing with Jalen Milrow. Load up on these RBs. It's going to be fun.
So Ray would not have liked my Quinn Ewers pick, just knowing if he declares he's got a name. But anyway, Shane, one thing Shane does is I've already seen him go through his sleeper leagues and he just puts every one of his draft picks on the block. The 107, the 110, the 112. Like, what is somebody willing to give me today? And I'm guessing there's not a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, let me go trade for that 112 or that 110 today. But what's your early gut feel in the class, Shane? Like we come into this very much trying to figure out the market more so than figure out the players. Where are you at right now? January season is just about to end. Last thoughts on the class for this mock.
I think you already Ray already hit the nail on the head, right? It's deep, and people are going to be disappointed in the fact that there's not elite quarterbacks, right? We drafted Milrow and Dart way too early. Just stop commenting on that in the comments now. All right, we drafted them way too early. Just stop beating us up about it. But the fact that there aren't elite quarterbacks or multiple quarterbacks that you even want to draft, people are going to look down on the class, but it's kind of fun, right? It's fun having to draft a position that we've all said is replaceable, and then to do so knowing that there are 20 running backs in the class that you could end up drafting. So it's like, how are we going to separate them? The value. How are we going to separate running back 5 through 10? Like how do you parse that? And I think a lot of the community, and I know I will, I'm not going to. I'm just going to go, you know what? Like you said, my picks are on the block. Instead of that 107, you can have my 107. Give me the 110 and the 203. Give me, instead of my 105, maybe not the 105, but 107. Let me split that. Let me get a couple assets so I can just take a couple shots on these running backs because I'm not going to know which one's the best, right? So let me get 2 shots with relatively the same draft capital, NFL draft capital probably. So it's going to be fun. I don't know if people enjoy drafting tight ends. If Ray's right, if it's that many tight ends, I don't know how people are going to feel about that, except that we play in a lot of 1.75 and 2.0 tight end premiums. So it's going to be lovely for us. I just think it's a year that it does behoove you to have as many picks as possible, right? And there's some years where I'd rather have early first round picks than at the expense of everything else. Obviously, I want the 101 if I don't have it, but I would not be opposed to having like the 109, 110, 111 instead of the 104 in a draft like this. And I think you could make that happen in some of your leagues.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for me, the thing that stood out this mock for sure was that if you really do want a receiver or a quarterback, I think you can make the argument of there's a scarcity issue. Now, there's going to be some receivers that move up or that move into a range where people feel more confident. But, we got to a point where you're like, if I don't take Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart, then I'm just not getting a quarterback. And that's fine. But if you want one, if you have a league where you're like dead set on, I really want to get a quarterback here, like I think it is fair to consider those two positions being those of scarcity, which is so interesting coming off last year's class where it was the opposite, and how the 2024 season played out, I think will factor into how people view those positions. So with that, mock is over. Subscribe to the channel, DDFFB, like the video, share it, comment. We'll try to get back on with you in the comments as well. Ridicule the picks, flame us on those quarterback picks because we know that that's probably not going to hold. But enjoy. This is going to be a regular show. We're going to do different formats. This one was pretty basic. We're going to have some more extreme formats. We're going to do some 2 tight ends, some point per carry, maybe a little devy, some best ball. Like, we're going to have all the different formats that you could think of. We're going to talk through it with the DD fantasy content creators on here. So with that, thank you, everybody. Continue to like and subscribe to the videos on the channel, and a lot more content coming from the crew very, very shortly. Have a happy new year and enjoy the NFL playoffs.